So hi, Lukas.
Hi, how's it going? Welcome.
We're outside. We're sitting down, which is a joy for me because I've been on my feet all day. And we're going to look at this lovely new thing from Korg Berlin, right?
Yes, so this is Acoustic Synthesis Phase 8. It's our kind of latest and greatest attempt at making an instrument that kind of sits between the two worlds of kind of acoustic instruments and synthesizers. Last year, for those of you who remember, we kind of showed an early production prototype, or kind of an early kind of technical demonstration of how this technology could work. And this year we've basically taken this acoustic synthesis technology and put it into a product. So at the heart of the instrument is this kind of assembly here. It's like the acoustic assembly essentially, and it's made up of individual kind of what we call resonators that are kind of the basis, or form the basis of the sound of the instrument. So you can hear if I can kind of interact with it physically, I can get them to vibrate and they make sound, and that's the sound that's coming out of the instrument. The way we pick up the sound is this here. This is a pickup, a capacitive pickup, so it works very much like a condenser microphone. And not only can you kind of physically interact with the resonators, but they can also be interacted with by the kind of system that is the synthesizer or the instrument itself. So underneath each resonator there's like an electromagnet, and that's how we basically get the resonators to vibrate. So how can you play the instrument? We've got kind of two different playing modes. The first one is this kind of hammer mode. So it's short, plucky sounds, and you have individual kind of tone control over each resonator. So if I'm plucking this one here, I can turn it up, gets a little bit of kind of distortion, or I can turn it down. And then I also have like a time component. So depending on the kind of way I'm playing the instrument, I can increase or decrease the kind of envelope. So in the hammer mode, it's the release of the envelope, so it's got a short attack and like a kind of release dependent on this time mode. If I switch to this kind of wave mode, I guess kind of like a pad mode, it now controls the attack, so you can kind of have these like swelly sounds. Something like that. There's a couple of kind of more global effects, so if I'm playing that in sustain mode, I've got a tremolo, so you can really imagine the kind of paddy, kind of like long, slow sounds to come out of this instrument. But we also have a sequencer, so if I switch into sequence mode, essentially here I have a kind of 8-step sequence which has been dialed in already. I can clear this pattern, and then using this kind of sequencer I can make all kinds of like kind of fun short melodic patterns. So if I select a resonator, input it here, select another one here, I can also record things over the sequence. So if I don't like the way that was played, I can either clear it or I can quantize it. And then really kind of what kind of brings you back to this kind of acoustic nature of this instrument is that you can also, obviously, as the sequence is going, interact with the instrument. So if you put things on it, it's going to mute the sound, really change the characteristic, and you can kind of interact with the instrument as it's being sequenced. So if if I kind of apply pressure to one of the resonators, I'm obviously also changing the sound. So it's very much about kind of getting in, playing live, messing around with the instrument, and kind of having this kind of like interaction with you and the instrument itself. So yeah.
So I saw online that you had like different versions of this, right?
Yes.
So is the kind of the idea that these will you'll have like essentially the same kind of engine but different kind of controls, right?
Yes, so I mean the 5 versions are very much kind of more like a kind of cosmetic version. So we've got another one here, and the idea behind this was kind of, if we are showing a prototype, and probably the last prototype before we release this as an actual product, wouldn't it be fun to kind of like make use of the fact that we're showing a prototype and really dive in and kind of make really 5 different versions, because it's not something you can often do in mass production. So that was kind of one motivation. And the other is also this idea of kind of like customization of instruments. So it's kind of something we know a little bit more from like the guitar world, like people putting stickers on, maybe changing out the pickups. And we kind of wanted to demonstrate or like kind of encourage this. It's kind of process of like picking and choosing how your instrument looks and feels and sounds. And having the sense of ownership of your instrument. So it was just kind of like a fun thing that we got to do.
Right, so it's just like purely just for the prototypes, right? Not for
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think imagine for like the product itself, I imagine it'll be kind of one kind of concrete design, but the aim is definitely to kind of release certain components, like the kind of dimension of certain components, so you can customize it yourself. I think we're more into the idea of like people customizing their own instrument instead of us kind of offering all the customizations.
Right,
like
okay, yeah.
Even talking things like aftermarket products, like other people make different resonators, maybe like making your own resonators. So I think it's very much about like connecting with your instrument, and like that's what we wanted to show today.
So in terms of like what will actually be released, is this kind of like how far along in the cycle are we? Are we like, is this like a, like what left is there to do, I guess, is my question.
So in terms of like the kind of function of the product and like the kind of the way it looks, I think a lot of us are already locked in. So we like this idea of this 8-step sequence where we like how fun and kind of just kind of easy it is to use. The things that we really need to iron out are just like the mass production things. So like kind of looking at like where we produce, how we're going to produce it, and kind of the nitty-gritty details of just mass production. So I think people can expect a product that looks very much like this, but obviously these things take a little bit of time, kind of, yeah.
And I'm guessing there's no kind of idea on price, but you're aiming for like next year, the Superbooth next year, to be ready?
Yes, that's what we're telling everyone. So we're hoping to be back next Superbooth with the kind of the product form of this. That isn't to say that maybe it's still a couple of months before we really like shipping them, but yeah, we hope we can get it done in a year. We're really ready to like get something out there and kind of get people using these things and not just have it to ourselves.
Amazing. Well, Lukas, thank you very much for speaking to us, and yeah, we look forward to next year.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for dropping by.